Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast where we review every single Best Picture winner, and it is time to add one more film to our big giant list. If you are a longtime Backlot Banter viewer, you will know that we spent a couple years, we spent reviewing every single Best Picture winner, and along the way we would review all the new nominees that came out, and when the film that won Best Picture was announced, we added it to our list. And so this year is no different than any others. It's a normal Quest episode from the original series. It's just the only one you're going to get in the calendar year 2024.
We're winding back the clock.
Yes, the clock has winded back, but we're also as much in the future as we've ever really been.
That's true.
What?
That is
fair enough.
Evergreen and ever true.
If you missed it, last night at the Academy Awards in Hollywood, California, Christopher Nolan's film Oppenheimer won Best Picture at the final award given at the Academy Awards ceremony at the Oscars. It also won a number of other awards, 7 of them. And we're going to talk about that, plus what it means, and just kind of discuss this film and live in the revelry of the good feel moment that is post-Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
But before we do that, I want to hand it over to Abram because I don't think we really need to recap what happened. If you want to find out what we thought about all of the nominees, we've got videos on all of those. Go check them out.
Maybe you should read out the ranking, just to
That's a good idea.
contextualize the journey that we've gone on for the last
The entire
8
Best
weeks.
Picture winner ranking, is that what you're talking about?
No, God. Holy shit.
All right, number 97.
Not yet.
So,
This is
Well,
96.
technically there's 98 on the spreadsheet because we
Oh.
have Sunrise on La La Land on
Yeah,
there.
But
But you're right, it's 96. My mistake.
for 2024, the list is starting at the bottom. Notice where these films are because the Academy didn't really agree with us, but it's whatever. At the bottom is American Fiction. Above that is Maestro, and then The Zone of Interest at spot number 8. And then spot number 7 is The Barbie, and then The Holdovers. At spot number 5 is Poor Things, and then above that is Oppenheimer at spot number 4. Then Anatomy of a Fall at 3, Killers of the Flower Moon at 2, and at the top spot, Past Lives.
Wow.
We got it wrong.
Yeah, in our ranking we did. In our ranking,
But we weren't trying to predict anything.
No, guys,
No,
this
we
is
have-
our ranking.
We have a prediction video as well,
Yes,
in
and-
which we did predict that Oppenheimer
True.
would win Best Picture, as
Yes.
many people did.
Mhm.
Also in that video, actually in our Oppenheimer review, I do have to say that we did a little over-under odds on how many Oscars
Oh, I forgot about
Oppenheimer
that.
would come away with. I
That's
just
right.
listened to it today. I was the only one who took the correct under. I said 7 awards. We did over under 7.5.
Yep.
And it did indeed win 7 Academy
Sure.
Awards,
Okay.
including Best Picture. Hey, that's why we're talking about it here today.
Mhm. What else did it win?
It also won Best Actor in a Lead Role for Cillian Murphy, Best Director for Christopher Nolan. I always said,
Gotta rev it up.
yep. Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role for Robert Downey Jr. Achievement in Cinematography for Hoyt van Hoytema. Achievement in Film Editing for Jennifer Lame. Makeup. Oh wait, sorry, those are the nominees. It also won Best Score for Ludwig Göransson.
Mhm.
So there you go. That's 7.
A lot of categories that we pretty much expected it to win in. Some acting nods as well as that score. We can talk about it. Abram has a comment though from our Oppenheimer review to remind you
I
and
do.
celebrate the love with our own fan base here.
We couldn't go back to regular Quest for the Bestest without mentioning our beloved friend and 5th member of Quest for the Bestest, John Tour 11.
Woo, yeah.
Yeah.
Said the following on our Oppenheimer Quest episode. Another biopic, but this was a good one. A really good one. Finally, an excellent Nolan movie. I've been a bit disappointed with him lately. I don't think a movie has made me so nauseous before. And what a final line that will echo in my head for a while. Albert, when I came to you with those calculations, we thought we would start a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world. I believe we did. 9.2 out of 10.
Yeah. Thank you for
Which,
your score,
because John
Tour.
Torre is the 5th member of Quest for the Bestest, that will count towards
Yeah.
our average today.
9.2 out of 10. I will say we gave it for our nominees ranking a 9.1.
Okay. Very good.
He liked it barely more than average.
Yeah. The slimmest of margins more than us.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, let's talk about it. Oppenheimer won. We all expected it to happen. What does it mean? What does it mean that Oppenheimer is the winner? And what should we really take away from this year's ceremony?
Well, I'll just tag what John Tour said, because on a personal note, I agree with it. I have not really loved the Christopher Nolan movie since Dark Knight Rises, and Dark Knight Rises is not widely considered to be an especially great movie.
I think it's typically towards the bottom of his of the aggregate ranking of his films.
Right. So I mean, Dunkirk is okay. Yeah. I think that if I watch Tenet enough times, I will love it because I want to.
Just Stockholm yourself into that. Yeah.
So I'll keep going. But I was very happy to see this be the film that Nolan gets recognized for, because I mean, in the context of his career, this is finally his big night. He's never won before, which seems pretty wild to say about a director as storied and important to modern cinema and American blockbusters as Nolan. So through that lens, even though it's not my favorite of the nominees, I think it's entirely deserved, and I don't really think that should be anybody who's displeased with this being the best picture of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I would tend to agree. I opened our Oppenheimer review calling it a towering achievement of American filmmaking, and I stand by that. Though, albeit, obviously there is less immediate interesting things to say than when we did this a year ago for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which really felt like an envelope pushing of maybe the birth of some new style filmmakers who came from the world of like music videos and stuff like that. Christopher Nolan is obviously much more classical in his approach to filmmaking, and Oppenheimer is sort of an encapsulation of that. But also it cannot be undersold that it is a technical achievement in every category. And, as I also said in the Oppenheimer review, really changes the game for biopics and the structure of them with its sort of Christopher Nolan trademark time interpolation and stuff like that. And, of course, it is the third highest grossing film of the year. Yeah. Second if you go international, I believe. Or lower.
No, that's not true.
Well, is it like the Battle of Lake Changjing got a bunch of box office in China?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but anyway, it is among the highest grossing films of the year, which is a staggering achievement for the type of film it is.
$1 billion. Just short.
Yeah. And that is especially important for the context of winning Best Picture, because that is a status that basically no Best Pictures have had for 20 years. Return of the King was the last one to actually be a major money maker. And then even before that, in Gladiator made a bunch of money, but the last time big movies consistently won Best Picture was like the 60s. And so it's been a long time coming that we get these culminations of both popular attention in the form of box office, like provable popular attention in the form of box office success, and also like across the board award success. And it does feel sort of like a throwback in a really interesting way, but I think it does also fit modern excitement in an interesting way, because it is one of those movies one of the few movies of the 2020s especially that has brought people out to theaters for spectacle. And it is those spectacle movies that we see continuing to pop up in the Best Picture nominees but not winning. And Oppenheimer feels like the perfect, not IP, but kind of IP, because Nolan's kind of his own IP.
Right.
Populist movie that's also incredibly well made, that synergizes in the perfect way to put it on the top. And I think that what's interesting when we're talking about, oh man, I can't believe Christopher Nolan, it took him over 20 years of his career to win Best Picture. But let's just think about the other people that we've said that for. Martin Scorsese didn't win until 30 years into his career.
Yeah, something like that.
Steven Spielberg, I just did the math, didn't win until 19 years into his career. So this is actually a pretty normal thing when you're like, wow, I can't believe these directors haven't won. But I think it's interesting to see him be on the cusp of a kind of blockbuster filmmaking and awards quality that very few other filmmakers are succeeding in. And so I do think that there's a chance that if he takes this energy and continues forward with it, he can win multiple times in the way that we don't really see Scorsese and Spielberg doing. Because not many filmmakers are getting the budgets or the attention to do this kind of thing that is putting butts in seats and also is critically acclaimed. Of course, James Cameron, maybe we'll see, Avatar 5 or whatever, finally win for that achievement. But I think it's really, really cool way that it parallels older films, like when, Ben-Hur and Titanic won everything. And then, of course, nowadays that doesn't happen anymore because Coda and Everything Everywhere and Nomadland and Parasite actually made a good bit of money, but
here's the thing: is that it's exactly what you were talking about, Tucker. With it reflects this modern trend of eventized cinema being what gets people out to theaters. And again, I said a similar thing about Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker in our Oppenheimer review, that he is kind of the last of these guys who can do both, who can get these massive budgets for his original projects. And they do incredibly well at the box office.
I mean,
and then Denis will be coming for his little heels.
Timo, what are your thoughts on Oppenheimer as a Best Picture winner here?
My thoughts are, and I'm going to be a little churlish here, so forgive me, but
sure,
okay. It is laying the seeds for a very glorious win next year for a spectacle movie that just came out.
I see.
I might be wishing, I might be smoking the crack pipe, but. Dune Part 2 is something that strangely pairs with Oppenheimer in this new form of extremely popular, well-made, large-ass movies that a lot of people go see. And I mean, I think that's what's important about Oppenheimer, is that it's like it's a return to a form of winner that we haven't seen for a couple decades. Definitely. And so I am, I guess, just really curious to see what comes next. I mean, I should save that for the end of the video, but like where is the industry going to go? Because it makes me think, we had a couple of movies in this lineup. Well, okay, so Oppenheimer, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon are all very large budget movies, like $200 million plus, right? And so...
Wait, sorry, what? No.
Barbie was like one...
No, both of them are $100 million.
$100 million.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Oppenheimer's under 200. So
okay. Yeah, they're both, I believe, almost exactly 100.
Well, I will with that new information, I'll pivot, because that's not
still
like
a lot
huge,
more money.
Yes, but that's a lot of money, but it's not like your $300 million.
It's like a third of what the spent on the Marvels.
Yeah, like your Marvel movies are much, much, much more expensive. And
Fast X cost $340.
Yeah,
I think it goes to show that quality directors, Christopher Nolan is one of them, can shoot a very large, very impressive movie that is on time, on schedule, on budget, have it look amazing.
On quality.
Yeah, and have it be at their standard, which is very high, and also, turn out to draw really big crowds. So if the eventized form of cinema is here to stay, I'm not super upset about that at all, because as it happens, I kind of like to go to the theater. And so I think that last year we were feeling really good and feeling really happy about the industry as a result of Everything Everywhere. And I think that while you could make the argument that Oppenheimer is like a regression in terms of maybe style or like that envelope pushing, like Oppenheimer Wall is not actually, I think, like a super challenging or a subversive film in terms of form or in terms of like content of what it's saying. And it's, I guess, even in the money that it made, it's not subversive in that either. It's very mainstream. This is very widely popular, but maybe it's that in previous years, the widely popular films were not movies like Barbie and Oppenheimer, and that the movie has the movie-going culture changed to really want to reward these films. Maybe it has.
What I would say, and I will be the downer a little bit.
All right, here we go.
Just because I feel like Oppenheimer it succeeded both by its own merits and by external factors, which is not to discredit the quality of the film, but the way we talk about the scale of Oppenheimer is to presume that Christopher Nolan's movies, when they are not Batman, perform fucking incredibly well, and they don't really. I mean, is Dunkirk was Dunkirk a massive deal?
Dunkirk was like number 13 at the box office. I want to say in its year.
The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that I do believe that Oppenheimer was a result of Barbie's synergy with it.
That's true.
And I'm not trying to say that the movie is not fantastic by its own right. I like it a lot more than Barbie. I think it's an excellent movie. But this definitely, in my opinion, took Christopher Nolan, when he's not doing Batman, to a level of prestige he's never been at before.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just blatantly true. I think across the board, this is his win. And I think that it'll be interesting, as I said earlier, to see if this catapults him to consistent, like, winning awards presence, because he's been a consistent awards presence in terms of especially getting techs, but he hasn't really won almost any Oscars.
No, I mean that was the kind of the narrative for him last night. On top of Abram, if we want to maybe if we want to put on our cynical lenses here.
No, but that's not what I was trying to say.
No, I get you. But if you want to be a bit more critical and not be, we could also be a resounding narrative that I heard secondhand from people sort of reporting on this, is that in the industry, people were like, Oppenheimer is an incredible movie, but a lot of the Best Picture nominees this year were incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are also awarding it for being a serious movie, a movie for adults that performed as well as it did.
And I think that that's good. The larger point I'm trying to make is that Oppenheimer is, in my opinion, in part the result of a manufactured effort, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but a manufactured effort to bring movies like this back to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I am in support of this manufactured effort.
I am too.
Call me part of the Hollywood cabal if you must.
And this is manufacturing. I'm not trying to undermine the success of Oppenheimer.
Put me on the assembly line, Hollywood.
But I'm ready.
I'm doing my part.
I think ultimately the win for Oppenheimer is in some ways a recognition of the fact that the Oscars are now a lot more willing to put things like Top Gun Maverick through and put Avatar through and then award what is the most traditional of the big blockbusters that dominated the last couple of years, give that Best Picture. Yeah. And I think that's really good because I definitely have the most normie film taste of all four of us by a country mile. And I
got a buddy here who might disagree.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
I love my normie boys.
Everybody get under the bus.
I think it's important.
Is it normie taste if Abram and I also appreciate slow, artful cinema? I don't think that's normie taste.
A little Kuros.
All I'm saying is
time to time.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that the Oscars are willing to do this. Sure. And I think that this is a deserving win for the quality of Oppenheimer. But I think that there's a lot more at play than Christopher Nolan coming and doing what he always does, which is make one of the highest grossing movies of the year. That's a front to back banger. This is a big, long, cumbersome biopic.
Yeah.
It just so happens that it's also, I think, exquisitely edited. Which is why I think the editing award is probably my favorite award that it got outside of Best Picture, because I do think that if you want to talk about something that Oppenheimer completely by its own artistic merits does, is open this new way to frame a story like Oppenheimer and engage audiences. It was a much larger marketing and cultural apparatus that got Oppenheimer to the place that it got to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's the success of the actual technical editing among other facets, but I think in particular the editing that makes it so appealing to everybody, from people my sister's age, like I said on our Quest review, all the way up to our parents, our grandparents.
The average Academy voter.
Right.
Yeah, the average geriatric.
So
yes.
That's all I'm trying to say. I think that Oppenheimer is the culmination of the trend we've been seeing the last couple of years in the films nominated, but it is also by its own merit, specifically in terms of editing, a step forward for this type of storytelling.
Well, but it's also something else that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about this from the perspective of the Academy. So if we think about the films that were nominated and won last year, I think if we just kind of ignore some of them from last year, like Avatar and Dune and Top Gun Maverick, the Oscars, at least in pop culture, were kind of on a slide to irrelevance. They were sliding towards nobody giving a shit and nobody like wanting to watch them. Which
that's because pop culture is wrong, and they should be watching Tar and Banshees.
Yes.
This year, I don't think the Oscars were irrelevant at all. So I've been
and they're on their highest viewership since 2019 right now.
And so they're
not carrying that forward to this year, let me tell you that.
I think that it's not right to make the argument that the Academy is choosing to go with this film because it will increase its own standing. But I think that by choosing this film and by kind of the nominations at large, it actually really does increase its standing. Sure. Since I've been at South by interviewing all these filmmakers, and one of the questions that they've been asked is like, what are you seeing? What have you watched recently that makes you feel good about the industry? And like, I would say 90% of the answers have been Best Picture nominees. And I just feel like that is not something that was happening in a couple of years ago. I think before the pandemic too, in years like with like Moonlight and La La Land, while these are films that like we really care about, like I think like as a larger pop culture appeal, like they're not really there. But this year you got Barbie, you got Oppenheimer. These are two films. I think Tanner and Abram, you guys are right that the synergy between the two of them was a particular stroke of marketing genius that really elevated both films.
Yeah.
So I mean, they deserve to be rewarded for that. And I think that the Academy...
And one of them was in the awards, and one of them wasn't in the awards.
I will just dovetail what you're saying there, too, and the last thing I'll say about like the macro positioning of the award is I think, Timo, it's totally fair what you're saying and valid in that I don't, in my opinion, the Oscar for Best Picture should be more than a simple barometer of quality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's why a film like Coda winning feels very meaningless to me.
Sure.
Because Coda is a film that is very good, but it really is substanceless in what it itself as a larger cultural product.
Wow, I could go on about how it's sort of emblematic of the pandemic era and staying at home and watching movies on streaming, and also people looking for some positivity, shifting away from the negativity of the real world. But I'm not going to say all that.
The point I'm trying to make is that I feel like Oppenheimer is very high quality, which I'm not trying to disparage. Again, our review speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not wrong, I think, to pick a movie that also has this great rhetorical meaning to the canon of film.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Abram shouted out editing as his favorite award that Oppenheimer won. Of the 7, or I guess of the 6, aside from Best Picture, does anyone else have one that they were especially excited about the Oppenheimer winning?
I'm excited that Oppenheimer didn't win sound. I mean, I'll just say that.
That's fair. That's fair.
They can believe.
And that's why we all put the above with 8 because we all thought it would win sound, and so did you. I guess maybe I think you're taking like the opposite of us. Just
I think there must have been a thought in the back of my head that was either, well, I'll take the under just because everyone else took the over, and also maybe it was going to lose sound or something else. I don't know. I'm going to come in and say that I'm really glad that Robert Downey Jr. was awarded last night.
Yeah.
For his sort of positioning as like this guy, he's had a crazy sort of narrative in Hollywood as a young upstart, young star who sort of got hooked on drugs and sort of had a fall. His star fell quite a ways, and then he had this massive bounce back and became the biggest movie star in the world and the biggest movies in the world. And then his tenure as that ended right when that series sort of peaked in terms of quality and relevance. And then,
and he died.
And also he died. He took the last chopper out of Saigon, really. But now he's back in like one of the biggest, probably the biggest movie of the year if you're thinking about money and awards and everything
money
like
and
that.
Prestige.
And really just swept this award all the way through, this best supporting actor award, and continuously was charismatic in his acceptance speeches, continued to position himself as a fantastic leading man, and I'm really excited to see where this next phase of his career goes post-Oppenheimer.
Sure.
Yeah. I thought he gave a really nice speech, too. I mean, it was like, you know what? It's like some
it was actually all good speeches last night.
It was very good speeches.
That was a really, really good set of speeches.
What I will say about Robert Downey Jr. is that man has a...
Go watch Jonathan Glazer's speech.
Yeah.
You can't.
Not on the Oscars page, anyway.
What?
It's not because they uploaded to something kind of Palestinian, so they haven't uploaded it.
They didn't upload the wins for Jonathan Glazer for International Feature, or even the sound win for Zone of Interest isn't up on YouTube under the Oscars page, anyway.
You can find it online, of course.
They have basically every other speech.
They just have to do it like that. They just have to. But RDJ...
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
That guy has some swagger. And he was up there on stage looking very confident, very full of himself. And if there's any place that you are allowed to look like that and allowed to look like you think you're hot shit, it's accepting your Academy Award. Like you're completely allowed to be like that. And I thought he owned it. I thought he looked great.
Yeah. I agree completely.
Right on.
So we have a task. We can't just like sit around here and lollygag and be like, we do have a task. Before we put in your scores, I kind of want to. I want to get a tease as I've been hearing. Can you give us a tease as to what you're thinking about where this film goes on the entire list of the best pictures? Because
where it'll end up.
I haven't looked at this list in a while, right? I haven't. We have all these numbers and we have all these films. What are your guys' like first kind of leanings as to where this goes? Let's just play this. Let's play out this whole ranking thing a little bit more.
I could be boring and bring the numbers into it because we did say what its average score was, and I can just look at the average scores along the side here. But I'm not going to say. Just to leave a little sizzle for the audience here. I think it'll probably end up in our top 20 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could crack 10 potentially.
I think it'll be just outside the top 10.
Okay,
Yeah.
Depending on if people raise their scores potentially or lower them. I'm not really sure what's going on in you guys' twisted minds.
Here's going on my twisted mind. I'm just using the same score that I did last time.
Okay, that's fair.
I have no idea what I put, and I'm just gonna go with my gut
You're
here.
just raw dogging it.
I'm just
Tucker's raw dogging Oppenheimer right now.
He's raw dogging Oppenheimer.
Just like Florence Pugh.
Yes, Tucker.
I'm actually going to end up raising my score from the previous one, but because I actually gave it kind of a lower score for our. I think I've warmed up to this film since we reviewed it. I like it.
Sure.
I like it more now than I did while we did the Quest episode. Okay, we got our scores.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say top 15.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
That's what I'm gonna say.
Well, way to find out.
1, 2, 3.
I hope we have to do a tie. I love doing ties.
Okay, so we are now in agreement with John Tor. We now have a score of 9.2. I think my raising, I gave it like 0.4 more points. So
That's pretty good.
That brought it up to a 9.2, and we've got
Two
two ties here. This is
a couple interesting ones.
Rather interesting films. We'll start with the one that's lowest on the list at spot number. What is that? Spot number 12. Amadeus.
Oh shit! All right.
Oppenheimer v. Amadeus.
Another big biopic. Another really interesting, constructed and narratively told.
That's a good point.
Two rather well done biopics.
Yeah, they're very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
in length, in vibe, in I always think when I think about Amadeus, even though it has left my mind in a lot of ways, I think about not only the incredible production design and the costuming and everything, but I think about the sound design and the sort of ways we end up in Amadeus's mind, and as he's writing music, we hear the music beginning to unfold. I think a lot of, obviously not the same technique, but I think the same style of technique brings Oppenheimer to life, subjectively as Amadeus subjectively brings Wolfgang Amadeus's life to life.
Right.
They're very similar in my mind. I'm probably gonna stick with Amadeus though.
Okay,
I think
interesting.
I'm going with Oppenheimer, if only because it feels like a fresh, modern biopic. Of course, Amadeus was fresh for its time, but when I think back on Amadeus, it sort of fits into it was after that era, but it was kind of the tail end of the era where a lot of big biopic-y movies were winning, and so it kind of gets lumped in there in my mind.
Yeah.
And I think that Oppenheimer, at least for now, and maybe for the future, if this trend doesn't continue, feels very distinct because it is that big boundary-pushing biopic in the Oscars, which have not rewarded biopics, big biopics in a while. I mean, I guess The King's Speech was kind of the last one, but that's not a big biopic.
What I would say is I think that the fact that we all have such high scores for Amadeus, I think is emblematic of my point that it feels like a movie at a time in some ways. Yeah. I think it still feels incredibly fresh and interesting. And so I think to myself, and it's impossible to do, but if we were to be doing Quest in 5 years' time, and there's no real recency bias to Oppenheimer, and I just look at these films next to each other, I'd find them very similar.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would give the advantage to Amadeus.
Okay.
I'm kind of game in the system because I'm leaning towards Oppenheimer going above Amadeus. Because I'm kind of looking at what the other film is that is at a 9.2 and thinking about like kind of all three in conversation.
That's good. That's fine.
But
technically all tied.
True.
I mean, I think that Oppenheimer is, you're right that they are similar, but I think that the stylistic, I guess, adventures that it takes, that it goes and wanders off to are pretty interesting, and they're very modern and feel like a blend of classic elements with like fresh taste and that Nolan twinge. And so I think they're really close, but I'm just going to eke out Oppenheimer above Amadeus. Maybe call it recency bias, but I'm not changing my answer.
I love recency bias. Big fan.
For the purposes of not making it a 50-50 split, I'm going to go Oppenheimer, but I also was deep in thought, and I think... Yeah.
The waffle maker was making his waffles. He was waffling.
It was beeping. There was smoke coming out of it. I also think I just have to give it to Oppenheimer in terms of, obviously Amadeus can't necessarily do this with its subject matter, but the nuance with which Nolan approaches telling the story of Oppenheimer and the moral ambiguity that he sort of injects and also condemns within the character of J. Robert Oppenheimer is really cool. And not to say that there's not like nuances to the characters in Amadeus either. There obviously is, and we talked about them.
They're both shitbags.
Yeah, they're both awful. But hey, maybe Amadeus isn't like a terrible guy. Maybe Ben Kingsley just hated his ass.
Not Ben Kingsley.
No, what the
F.
fuck?
Murray Abraham.
That's right. Thank you. Maybe F. Murray Abraham just hated his ass because he was jealous of him. Another story of jealousy? Anyone? Yeah, there we go.
Doing leads, frame narrative.
Exactly. We're doing it. I'm gonna go Oppenheimer though. I'm gonna do it. So we got another tie to debate.
We got
here,
another
folks.
tie to debate. The film that was above Amadeus, is
now tentatively above.
It's tentatively above Oppenheimer right now. Is In the Heat of the Night. This film.
Oh yeah.
I gotta come out and be like
2 orange posters.
In the Heat of the Night is on top of Oppenheimer.
Correct.
I agree. I'm going in the Heat of the Night as well.
I unfortunately, for me, Amadeus was the strong.
That was the wall.
That was the bulwark.
Okay.
I would put Oppenheimer above In the Heat of the Night, but I would not put Cillian Murphy above wrongly not awarded.
Yes.
Sidney
Well,
Poitier.
Quesker winner,
Yeah.
Sidney Poitier.
Yes.
You know what?
RDJ versus Rod Steiger.
I mean, that's RDJ all the way. But I think for the cool fact, well, Oppenheimer's also a very cool film. But In the Heat of the Night is a fucking cool ass movie. Sidney Poitier is cool as hell in that movie, and it also cannot be understated.
My boy's in the produce section. He's a cucumber in that movie.
Oh, he's cool as a goddamn cucumber.
My boy's getting misted lightly on the hour.
Yeah, hourly mists. Ooh, don't reach in there when it's going. It's cool. It's cold. The impact and the importance that In the Heat of the Night had for the civil rights moment, I think, is also quite important and sort of puts it in the history books that Oppenheimer is sort of unproven in that manner.
Yeah.
As much as we just talked about its importance as a Best Picture winner. So
I don't predict Oppenheimer will gain any status as high and mighty as that, as being in the history.
I don't think it's going to be celebrated for its civil rights victories. this movie full of white people.
Yeah, who are
the bomb was wrong.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go In the Heat of the Night. Actually, so where does that drop Oppenheimer?
We got at least two votes for In the Heat of the Night. On top.
I think that's 3.
That's 3.
That's
yeah.
3.
That's
so
three.
it's settled then.
Yeah.
Okay. So Oppenheimer is going to go at spot number 12 on.
Just outside the top 10. What I say?
You guys are
That's
very,
right.
very much spot on. Spot 12 out of 98 films.
Well,
on our
96
list.
winners
96,
plus 2.
you get it. We are allowed
96
to
and
have our
change.
fun. We can have our fun with extra movies. I think that's a pretty good spot for it. It's in good company. The films above In the Heat of the Night is The Apartment, and the film below Amadeus is No Country for Old Men. Those are also very, very excellent movies.
Oppenheimer's neighbors now.
Yeah. For all of history. The rest of perpetuity.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe the next 10 years with the Best Picture nominees will all settle in that area and they'll be pushed apart.
Yeah.
We can only
Kinda
hope so,
like,
actually. If that's the case,
The
we got a good 10 years
gentrification of the
coming.
quest list.
I like to think that they all live in like a neighborhood, a town together. I suppose would be population 96.
Well, do you guys have any more thoughts about Oppenheimer, or any thoughts about the ceremony as a whole? That
Good movie, very good ceremony. I actually put together a tweet today, just kind of like compiling all my thoughts on the ceremony, which I would contend is probably the best awards show that I've ever seen. In terms
of the ones I've watched live, absolutely.
In terms of the quality of the winners, the speeches, the bits were actually pretty good on the whole.
Yeah, it flowed very well.
The pacing was very, very good.
Ended on time.
Yes, the hour early start is a good move. You get done at 9:30 or 10:30 for you East Coasters. Everyone gets to bed early. No one's grumpy the next day. Like Al Pacino,
who collapsed as soon as he left the stage.
Should we talk about some moments of the Oscars?
Yeah,
sort of put these in time.
I replied to your tweet Tanner, saying that you forgot a very, very important part in which which is my favorite part of the ceremony, when they pull out Slash, when they get Slash out there to shred during I'm Just Ken, and that was awesome. That's all I can say. I love it.
I'm not sure what your environment was during the Oscars, but were you at a watch party?
I was at a watch party, yeah.
Did the room basically in unison, like we did here, all go Slash?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, everybody did. And then everyone was like, "Yeah!"
You think some seismologist picked that up on on a Richter scale at some point?
Like, yeah, and it was a diagonal line too.
Uh-huh.
I don't know enough about seismology.
A slash, bro.
Favorite moments of the Oscars, folks. What do you think? What do you think?
I gotta say, Cord Jefferson's speech.
It's really good.
Cord Jefferson was really like, "Hey, studio execs,
you don't have to make $200 million movies." Actually, Tim, I was going to say you sort of invoked him a little bit in your opening thoughts about these big budget movies and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
it was a great speech.
I had low key been planning to bring up that speech the entire time we've been recording this episode. So, yeah, it's a great speech, and it seemed to me like the applause that it garnered might mean that some of the studio executives who are in attendance, this is the room where they make the decisions.
This is the room where it happens.
Maybe they will change their mind. I mean, unlikely, but it's a possibility.
No. Well, maybe 3 years from now when those movies are coming out.
Yeah.
It'll take some time. Abram, favorite Oscar moment of last night?
We got really good pizza last night.
It's true. We got good pizza.
We got really, really good pizza last night. That was my highlight. I mean, the Oscars just don't do anything for me. I've said this before. For me, it's fun. We get everyone together.
Right.
You made a really fun movie, Jeopardy.
We did, yes.
We did our own little Oscars presentations. We had some good pizza. We hung out. We're talking over every award. We're talking over every acceptance speech. Our friends trying to crank up the volume.
I was listening.
He's lying. I'm kidding.
I was listening for most of them.
If I did have to pick us most, I'm a fucking normie idiot, as I've said. So I liked when Messi claps.
Yes,
I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
I liked the picture of the guy clapping the dog hands under the seat.
Yeah,
behind the scenes picture. And then I also really like Jonathan Glazer's speech.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're criticizing Jonathan Glazer, you're a bitch, and you wouldn't have done that yourself. So you should probably shut up.
Hey,
that's
true.
That's all I have to really add to that particular discourse.
Yeah.
I thought his speech was really good.
I'm also happy that now, after the Oscars last night, Steven Spielberg went to Justine Triet and was like, "Write a script for a movie for me."
Yeah, exactly.
Which is about to be the greatest movie ever made by humankind.
A great baby was conceived last night.
That's true.
A very beautiful child.
Timo, was Slash your favorite moment of last night?
It might have been. I mean, I think because it's part of the I'm Just Ken performance, which was just really, really, really electric.
It was really good.
It was really good, and
the choreography was insane. They really went all out.
And later on, I saw that it's in reference to this Marilyn Monroe stage performance. Ryan Gosling is God, that guy he can act and he can do a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think that was probably my favorite moment. I mean, I will shout out because I did it earlier in a negative form, but I'll do it in a positive form here, that it was really excellent that Zone of Interest won sound. I was really, really, really happy about that because that's how it should have been. That was the best sound movie of last year, and it was the film that lived or died by it, and we've said that about 1 million times. So happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, going off of your favorite award, I was very pleased to see two things win. I was very pleased to see Boy and the Heron win Best Animated Feature. I was especially pleased to see Godzilla win.
Yeah.
Which was really fun. How they achieved that film on such a small budget maybe casts light over the win.
I don't know.
However, I was very happy about that. They were having so much fun. They all had little Godzilla shoes on. They all brought their Godzilla toys up. Some of their Godzilla toys had bow ties on, which I showed later, which I really liked. I also think that it's completely unconscionable to play him off.
Yeah.
When he's trying to read English.
He's trying his fucking hardest to read this thing
They also
English.
started playing him off when he was talking about the member of the team that had passed away.
It's so stupid. But there weren't that many moments like that.
No, there was very few playoffs.
A lot of people dogged on the moment that was, I believe it's for Jonathan Glazer's speech. Or maybe it was the 20 Days of Mariupol. It was one of the important ones of last night that the playoff music was "I'm Just Ken." It was like, I don't know if you want to.
It was 20 days.
Yeah, that was really weird.
And then when Steven Spielberg, he was like on stage announcing something, or they were talking about Spielberg, and then they're playing Schindler's List music behind it. I was like, okay, producers.
I will say one thing that I am the most conflicted about. Is the presenter pairings that were very clearly studios trying to lightly promote their upcoming films. Now, I'm conflicted about that because it feels very corny. But also, I want those movies to do well because I want people to go to the theaters. And so if this helps that, I'm okay with it. But also, most people don't know that these are references to upcoming movies.
They don't.
So I'm the only one who's like, both happy and mad about that. But it was like Michael Keaton and Catherine O'Hara. Okay, Beetlejuice. Anya Taylor-Joy.
It was also just a Beetlejuice reunion.
Well, true, but they wouldn't be doing that if Beetlejuice wasn't coming out.
They would. They did a lot of those pairings for classic movies. They did like DeVito and
I know, but that is very clearly in line with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, the Fall Guy coming out soon.
But also Barbenheimer.
There are reasons for this, but obviously they are going to these people, and they're doing this for a reason. They're trying to get these stars out in front of them because the fucking movies are coming out soon.
I can't believe it. You're telling me that the Oscars are a commercial enterprise and that the whole thing, the whole point of it all is to valorize and make people think more highly of movies and go see them? What?
My larger point to you is just that I think that the pairings were not egregious because there's a dual purpose fit in the theme of the show. With the exception of the Furiosa one. I think you're totally right with the Furiosa one.
The Furiosa one was just like, because they're in a movie coming out in 2 months. I guess my favorite moment, I don't know. The Cord Jefferson speech is really good. I probably would have said that if Tucker didn't say that. In line with our Oppenheimer discussion, Christopher Nolan's director acceptance speech about how we are only 100 years into the art of filmmaking and how he invoked, like, imagine being 100 years into painting or 100 years into sculpting or whatever. That's a great, I mean, it's a fucking fantastic point from him and a really powerful way to sort of not really valorize himself, but the art form as a whole, which he very clearly cares for.
And I think that it's an important thing that is very, I think, it's not very often that kind of thing is recognized.
Exactly.
The medium is very fucking young.
Yes.
Most art forms that we know about and that we reference, we're only talking about a sliver of their history.
Right.
And the idea that this medium can grow and evolve and has certainly not reached its peak in any form or fashion, and it won't do so for a long time, I think is really inspiring from a guy like Christopher Nolan, who just made one of the best movies ever made and has made a number of them.
Well, Tucker, you're wrong. It did reach its peak on February 14th, 2024 with the release of Sony's Madam Web. That is when the art form peaked. But anyway, I could say that, but
recover from that release. We can just leave it at that.
Instead, I'm going to say the John Cena streaker bit.
So funny.
It's
and then
like,
he looked at the camera. Costumes
are important. Perhaps the most important thing.
John Cena hosts the Oscars next year, please.
Oh no, wait! I take it back? John Mulaney recapping Field of Dreams is actually my favorite bit.
It was
just because I love
that one. It's a funny bit. The comedy value is funny, but it irked me because it's in front of the Sound Award, and his speech had little to do with sound. It really didn't have anything to do with the medium that he was presenting for. So, from
to do a John Mulaney bit,
given that I'm used to being shit on for my profession, that's like the normal state of things for being a sound operator. It's like, I guess put another load on, like whatever, like okay, Don't actually talk about the artistry. Make a joke, okay?
You're gonna get insulted so much at work from now on because that happened.
Yeah, everyone's gonna start talking about Field of Dreams instead of recognizing your work.
Yeah, and they won't ask me how I'm gonna boom this next shot.
No.
Well, great discussion. I don't know. I think we've pretty much exhausted what there is to say, at least right now, about the Oscars. They were just yesterday, so maybe more thoughts will come, but. Keep it tuned here for Backlot Banter because next year we will be talking about the Oscars again. We cannot help ourselves. We love it. Stay tuned, though, because the quest for the bestest
break.
Palme d'Or series will be returning after a little hiatus. We've been working very hard on all these Oscar stuff, so we've got to take a little break for ourselves, but then we're back because boy, oh boy, we have a film to review. It's Taxi Driver. So
Driver.
in about
So just watch Taxi Driver every day until that Quest analysis is posted. Just really
I disagree.
Get familiar.
Watch Quest videos until that day is.
Oh, that's a good point too. Just do both. I think is what really works.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver on your phone, Quest videos on your laptop.
This Quest boring. I'll fuck.
Taxi Driver on your phone.
What we should do is we should upload Taxi Driver to the BLB TikTok in 100 parts.
Oh, that's a great point. I like
people
that.
Can just watch that over and over again.
That's
and
good.
then on YouTube, we'll do a 10-minute AI summary of Taxi
That's
Driver.
good.
There we
We're
go.
really cashing in.
Yes.
2024 is the year that BLB cashes in.
We will be rolling in that dough come year end. Well, it's up to you, dear viewer, to help us out in that. Until next time, stay tuned to Backlot Banter. And as I say, stay warm, keep cool. Peace.
Bye.